Let's return to our top story today. The US Supreme Court ruling that President Donald Trump's tariffs were imposed illegally. It said he could not use an emergency powers provision to bypass Congress. Let's get more on this by speaking to the Professor of International Law at Georgetown Law, Gregory Shaffer. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this morning. Is this a ruling on the legality of those tariffs or merely about how Donald Trump went about implementing them?
It's a clear ruling that the tariffs were unlawful under the U.S. Constitution, yes.
And how did they come to that conclusion?
They came to that conclusion by interpreting the statute, which IEEPA, which had never been used to raise tariffs before in its history, and found there was a sort of split majority, but the core question was the statutory interpretation of IEEPA. It doesn't mention tariffs. And the majority found that it didn't include the ability of the president to raise tariffs on his own.
The president himself, when speaking after the ruling, seemed very angry and a bit surprised that justices he had appointed to the Supreme Court would have the temerity to rule against him. But isn't that the point of it?
The point is that judges are supposed to be neutral and supposed to interpret the text of statutes under the Constitution. And that's what the majority by 6-3 did.
Is it a boost for those defenders of America's separation of powers?
It is. I think it's central that there was one dissent, and that was by Justice Thomas alone, who said that actually Congress could delegate all of its power to the president under the Constitution with respect to its tariff authority, which is explicitly set forth. The other two justices who dissented with Thomas didn't join him on that, but they more or less came close by saying all the president would have to do is declare a national emergency and he would take over the tariff power. But the 6 other justices said, no, that's not the case.
What's the path forward for the president now? Does he have to go through Congress for any further tariff policies?
No, there are many other statutes on the book. All of them are old statutes. Some of them have been used. Some have never been used. He's said that he's going to invoke a never used statute before, which was adopted in the 1970s when the United States had a balance of payments challenge because the currency was tied to gold under a fixed exchange rate. Of course, we have floating exchange rates now, but nonetheless, for 150 days, that statute permits him to raise tariffs up to 15%, and says he's going to raise them up to 10% globally. Then in the meantime, there are other statutes which says he can conduct investigations, which involve the ability to raise tariffs much higher, but he has to conduct investigations. In many cases, there have to be hearings, and that'll take time. But I imagine his aim is to conduct those investigations and hearings and proclaim new tariffs within that 150-day period.
OK, Wilson, I really appreciate you explaining it to someone who's certainly not got much legal expertise. I really appreciate your view. That's the Professor of International Law at Georgetown Law, Gregory Shaffer.